Armchair commanders, we call the shots. From our living room thrones where the action's hot. We're the generals of fiction, the masters of war. In silver screen battles with buttered popcorn. Armchair commanders, armchair commanders.
All right, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John. And this week we are returning to the land of Disney to review Atlantis, the Lost Empire. It was a childhood staple of mine. How about you, Jack?
Yes. I remember even getting the little plane thing they fly towards the end in one of a Burger King meal, I think it was.
Oh, I had that too. It was either Burger King or McDonald's had some toys for this movie.
Yeah, man.
I gotta say, those airplanes they were flying at the end looked like the most rickety pieces of shit ever. Like I get this takes place in 1914, but even by 1914 standards, I'm like, that seems a little sketch.
Remember, they just had that with them. That's how prepared they were on this mission.
Well, you know what they say, luck favors the prepared.
Always be prepared.
Be prepared.
Didn't the scouts teach you
They were a
that,
bunch of Boy Scouts. They did teach me. And that's Eagle Scout boy to you.
Eagle Scout. Look at you, huh? Who'd you kill to get that rank?
I know.
Is that how Boy Scouts work? You kill the guy above you and take his rank?
Yes.
Cool.
So, when was the last, prior to viewing it this week, when was the last time you saw this film?
Yeah, it was in 2016 when I was living in Jackson's basement. Normally I'm a social butterfly, but for a good chunk of that year, my few social interactions were with you guys, Frank, and, well, that's pretty much it, I guess. But other than that, there was a kick. I shit you not, the entire first semester, I watched a movie almost every single night. Some of them I hadn't seen before. Some of it was the first time. And I just decided to rewatch that just out of nowhere.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was kind of worried about you that year. One, the basement that they had shoved you into wasn't all that stellar. But were you depressed or something, dude? Because I remember you just you didn't even have an actual futon. You just had a futon pad.
On the floor that I never bothered to get a bed for, because why bother?
Yeah, were you okay?
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't.
I'm glad to see that's how good of a friend I was. I'm like, kooky Jack.
I just spent, because this is the same year I got kicked out of college and went back to the family ranch to work. And that was in January. Well, started in January. Cold, depressing as shit. In fact, the defining moment of that time of my life came the first week that I was back from vacation. And I was working on the ranch, one of my morning duties. I think I've told this story before on this podcast, but whatever, I'll tell it again. One of my morning duties was to load up salt and feed for the cows, salt and mineral, put it in a tub, mix it up, and then dispose of the bags and, add until it's over. And the car we used for that was my brother's old high school car, which has definitely seen better days, let me tell you what. And the hydraulics on the back hatch were broken, so we had to prop it up with a fucking stick. And, I was just loading them into the back of his car. And I jostled it so the stick came loose, and the back hatch swung down and smacked me in the forehead and knocked me down. And I just laid there on the ice and ground, cold, hard ground for 5 minutes, just staring up at the overcast sky. And I had a serious debate with myself whether it was worth it to get back up again. But god damn it, I did. And, I just kind of sucked it for the next 8 months.
Well, now look at you, college graduate, government employee.
And I rented out a room in our mutual friend Jackson's house, the basement, like fucking a wall, a window that opened up to the ground. I don't remember what the word for that is.
Probably window well,
whatever.
like that.
And 3 blank featureless walls with a bunch of gaming drawings on them.
I was going to say, they weren't blank. Whoever had that room before you spray painted the Halo logo on one wall.
Yeah, they drew it. Quite impressive, actually. And, just the permanently stained carpet that they deep cleaned 3 times, and it still had that musty smell and that color. And then just like me and my little futon mattress bed. Super depressing. Never watched it once in those 9 months. And I didn't even save it. I just fucking hocked it, just that thing is unholy.
Yeah, I don't think there's any saving it. I don't think there's any saving it after
There's
that.
no cleaning. There is no blessing. That thing just needed to be burned, and I hope it did. If not, some homeless man probably found it in Vermilion, and, I hope it's working out for him.
Yeah. You think that's bad?
Thanks, Brand.
Remember that time that the museum denied your request for an expedition to Iceland?
So what was he? Like, was he like, he obviously he was like a boiler tender.
So, I think the way I caught it was he was like a linguist and like cartographer, so like
Was
map
he a
maker.
cunning linguist?
Ha ha.
Was he a cunning
but, like-
cartographer? Alright, I'm done.
Yeah, probably. But because of his obsession with Atlantis, they just like shoved him into the boiler room.
That's how you deal with annoying coworkers.
Yeah, I mean that's what I do with my wife. I just strap her to the radiator.
Man after my own heart.
That's a joke. Don't at me. It's a long running joke. For the love of God, women have equal rights. They are our equals.
The views expressed on this
I-
podcast aren't necessarily that of our own.
I don't even own a radiator, guys. Okay, it's a fucking joke.
I don't even have a wife, guys. It's a joke.
I'm not even real.
Yeah, this is just John talking to himself. Sorry, I was gonna save that for our series finale.
You know who seems like someone that would tie you to a radiator was our first, like, God, what the fuck was her name? Helga Sinclair.
Man, she can tie me to a radiator and touch my naughty bits. My no-no swear.
I loved when this movie started. It's like, this movie is rated, what is it, G or PG?
PG?
Anyways, whatever they rated it, the only thing that they put as like in the disclaimer was just depictions of smoking. And there's people literally getting there's people getting vaporized in this movie. There are people drowning to death in a giant tsunami. Like,
There's people getting
how is smoking
like sealed in like rooms that are being flooded.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of horrific shit in this movie for like a kid's movie. And the only thing the Motion Picture Association dinged it on was the fact that Helga fucking smokes.
Well, the old lady.
Oh yeah, her too.
I don't remember what her name was, but Helga is the mean mercenary mommy.
We're all gonna die. Wilhelmina Packard.
Wilhelmina.
His
Miss Packard.
I will say though, like, with Helga's first introduction in this movie, I really loved like they hit like usually we kind of make fun of tropes, but in this instance, I thought it did a great job of setting like the time and place of this movie, where it's like when she is introduced after she's broken into Milo's apartment, like it's the epitome of like a noir movie scene, and I loved every part of it.
So I get home one evening, there's a dame daming damily in my living room.
She damed all over the place. I still haven't forgiven her for the ashes she left on my carpet. Came all the way from New Zealand.
Her big old dames dame damily in their dame holders, and her dame had the shape of a dame. I take a swig of my whiskey and say, "Is this about the McCarthyism?" And she says, "What the hell is that, you fucking idiot? It's the early 1900s."
So something I wanted to discuss with you, like I know we have a loose interpretation of a war movie.
I thought you were about to
here,
say a loose interpretation
like,
of women.
No, I respect them despite the stupid shit I say. Okay?
Alright.
And if here's my progressive thought of the day. I wish that we had 9 Ruth Bader Ginsburgs on the Supreme Court.
You Ruth Bader
Okay?
believe it.
Right? That's how progressive I am. Okay? So, that being said, what the fuck was I? Oh, loose interpretations of war films. You know, we've discussed it before where you don't necessarily need to have combat in a war film for it to be a war film. Now, obviously there's like a major battle scene in this, but this in and of itself isn't like, it deals with Atlantis. It's a fictional place, or so we've been told.
But was that the X-Files theme?
It was my attempt.
Made me sad.
It was like a in between on X-Files and Twilight Zone. I kind of fucked it up.
Okay, I'll take that. Anyway.
But I found myself consistently through this film trying, like, I was like, I don't know why I'm trying to justify to myself that this is a war film. I can understand some of our listeners maybe raising an eyebrow at this film choice. And here's my defense. And I know I'm not even going to ask you if you think this is a war film. I already know your answer. Because your definition is way looser than mine. But my thought process on this, and granted, there's a saying I learned a long time ago, which is if you're explaining, you're losing. I don't think that's the case in this instance.
I just don't think that's true in general, really.
There's some instances it applies. Anyways, so it's 1914. We're in the year of our Lord, destruction on end in Europe. So we're at the beginning of the First World War, and that's very abundant. And I found it kind of interesting that they kind of did with the appearance of the soldiers in this film, they kind of looked like a Fallout New Vegas kind of raider with their face masks.
The faceless mercenaries, the ones that don't get character.
Yeah. I was like, this looks just like the cover to one of the Fallout games. So I found that very interesting. But my premise for this being a war movie is it's in 1914, so we are in a period of time where a world war is occurring. It involves a U.S.-led group, so the U.S. isn't involved in this. But it's a very militaristic group. They are mercenaries, which we find out later in the film. But we also find out that the Dr. Sweet his backstory is that he was at San Juan Hill. The Cookie, very, very clever name for the cook.
Yes, original.
There's one throwaway line from him where his like he and granted, I was like, holy shit, that's kind of, even by Disney standards, I'm like, this is a little too racist for a G movie. But he's like, I seen what they do to them in the Dakotas, which indicates to me that Cookie is an Indian Wars vet. He's a very older character, so it's not outside the realm of possibilities. And then, obviously, there is a major conflict at the end of this film where the residents of Atlantis fight the other mercenaries to prevent their deity crystal thing from being stolen. So that is my justification for this being a war movie. You got to watch the entire thing for it to make sense. It's not like bam right off the bat war movie, but I think this qualifies.
Well, see, and it also has an element of man versus nature in it too, with the Atlanteans sinking their city. Well, the king of Atlantis sinking his own people in his hubris.
Was it really hubris or just his desire to protect what people he could?
Well, don't you remember he said he was going to utilize it as a weapon, but then it backfired in the most predictable way possible. And then his wife gave her life to protect what's left of them. And they've just been kind of living as pseudo immortal post-apocalyptic survivors the past couple millennia.
I find Atlantis to be an interesting concept. There's this YouTuber, his channel's called Atlantis. He does the Checkmate Lincolnite series. But he did like a really deep dive into like Atlantis coming to the forefront of like pop culture and just like history in general. And surprise, surprise, the reason why it got so popular was because of the Nazis. Those kooky Nazis.
Where is the sunken city?
So, a lot of like pseudo archaeology we can lend to the Nazis. So like, whenever Crazy Hair Man on Ancient Aliens is like, no, you don't get it. The fucking flying fish, like that. Most of that is based in Nazi bullshit. Like yes, Homer does reference a city called Atlantis.
Plato?
But Plato, yeah, my bad. Sorry, not Homer. Fuck. The problem with Plato, which many people probably know this, is that everything Plato said was written decades after he died because he practiced an oral tradition of teaching. That being said, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, the works of Plato are bullshit. I very much think that the ideas of what is in Plato is as accurate as they can be. And deserve the credit that they do. But that being said, the fact that we're honing in on, like, how do we create such this massive fucking idea that, like, oh, Atlantis was this super advanced civilization, but, like you said, in their hubris, they were destroyed. But despite them being so advanced, they only make up one line in one person's recounting of the ancient world in anywhere. And it's like, really? Like, one person says this city exists one time, and then suddenly it's like, ha ha ha! They have electricity.
And remember, it was never intended to be an actual historical account. It was always a fictional city. Much like Metropolis, Gotham, Detroit is to us.
Yeah, I still refuse to acknowledge Branson, Missouri.
Now, if you want a really lost sunken city, let me tell you about the lost city of New Orleans. They disappeared one night in 2005, never to be seen again.
Oh man, I can't wait for like 3,000 years from now, some like crackpot archaeologist is like, no, you don't get it. New Orleans was this place, and it was the epicenter of partying in this society. And it's like, what?
And Orleanites. They would have strange rituals with beads, which was sadly lost to time.
Their hedonism was their downfall.
Like, instead of, like, pseudo-Greek or some offshoot of it like we imagine Atlanteans speak, like, imagine fucking Cajun being the lost language. Enchanté, gentlemen. Can I fry some?
It's actually pronounced.
Look at my shrimp. We're the dang loogie, man. Got them BP oil in them. Going up the There's an entire lost civilization of boomhowers.
I do declare this flower is wilting, and this ball may eat.
Why, So, how about the Saints this season? Why, my dear boy, I more acquaint myself with sinners rather than saints.
So what was... So, I remember texting you this, but, like... This is the first time I watched this movie in probably 15, 20 years. It's been a long time since I watched this movie. And the thing I couldn't shake watching it, I was like, this is what an episode of Ancient... Like, I'm like, this is just like a really artistic episode of Ancient Aliens, is what I got from it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just an Ancient Aliens episode that doesn't piss me off.
No wild-haired man with a Greek name and no background in science explaining to me what the fuck's going on.
Right. So yeah, but that being said, I still think this film held up very well over time. When this movie came out, it also got released. It was released in the same year as Shrek and
Harry Potter.
God, there was I think, yeah. So I mean, it had a lot of competition. But the fact that they retained the original Disney style of animation, but went the non-musical route was an interesting choice for me. But I did enjoy this film. I will say this movie felt a bit rushed. There kind of seemed to lack a smoothness between the cuts and ideas, because it's like he meets crazy 1914 Elon Musk in his fucking den. He's like, "You're just the man I'm looking for," and then suddenly he's on a fucking submarine, and he's like I get it. It's a kids movie, and like not everything's going to have a perfect explanation, but there just seem to be too many like, oh, here's the book that you've been looking for. We've always had it. We were just waiting for the right time. Also, this book tells you exactly how to get to this place. Don't ask us how this book got made, where it came from, all that shit. Or like, even like character introductions. Like I liked how they originally introduced the characters, where he's just like settling into his bunks, and there are people around him, and they just start talking, and like we get a very rapid fire like, these are who these people are. But there are things in this movie that feel shoehorned, where it's like halfway through the movie, during like a camping scene, it's like everybody gives their like heartfelt backstory at the same time. And it's like, you are purposely trying to give me a reason to like these people before they do before something happens. Like I could see this. Like you spent no other time personalizing them outside of their like quirks, and that kind of like it just felt out of place.
And I really have to address the elephant in the room in this movie. The thing that's
There's elephants in this
yeah,
movie?
if you pause at an hour and 22 seconds, fuck you. The one thing that bothers me the most about this movie it has one of the most egregious cliches in almost any movie ever for me, and that's we didn't sign up for this, or this wasn't part of the plan. What the fuck?
Oh, fuck you,
What
it
the
wasn't.
fuck do you mean this isn't what you signed up for? You're a goddamn paid killer. Of course you're gonna get your hands dirty, you fucking idiot.
Also, you all were about to, like, say, fuck you, Milo, until he gave his, like, oh, it's all about the money. I'm glad you can open up your flower shop. And it's like, really? The anti-capitalist fucking route is what turns these people's hearts to gold?
Yeah, like, in reality, would they not just, like, gloat in his face? Like, yeah, I'll buy a fucking flower shop and name it after you. Or I'm gonna buy a car with my papi's money and then crash it because fuck you. And the mole, I don't even want to know the depraved shit he's done in his past so that everyone just doesn't want to talk about it. Like, that guy's fucked up. Like, if this took place in a modern day or future setting, I would demand somebody search that man's hard drive. Like, that's the face of a man who's never paid taxes in his life. And he knows no king nor god.
I personally, I was a big fan of Vinny. You gotta love the pyro.
Yeah, he's a simple man. You gotta respect that.
It must have taken thousands of years to carve this. Poof! Oh, look. Took me, what, 10 seconds to destroy it?
And yeah, that's like I guess you could consider that like a little bit of foreshadowing to their callous disregard for an ancient culture. And their overall pragmaticism towards the thing. But, which kind of begs the question, they had no idea that Atlantis, like, people were still alive down here. They had no idea this was a still surviving.
I mean, they sure as fuck were prepared for it, though.
Yeah, like, that one dude wasn't wrong. This literally wasn't part of the plan. Like, they had no idea people were alive. Like, this is something this dude cooked up just on the spot. Like, hey, let's tell them we want to stay at night. Let's be reasonable about this. And then, boom, we have boomsticks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that all their, like, contingency planning was around probably, like, mythical creatures that
like,
they were expecting to encounter, but...
For all they knew, they were just going to have, like, a pretty boring session of let's sift through remains on a seafloor and take boring scientific notes, and maybe if we're lucky we're going to have some gold or gems to show for it. Nowhere near enough to pay for this, you know, presume multi-millions of dollars this dude just sunk into this, but he's going to be pissed when he finds out we didn't even use the airplanes he bought for us. This
What do you mean you lost a submarine?
And that's another thing. I'm kind of upset that the Ulysses, this big badass sub that was hyped up in the beginning and had this thing, was just destroyed in 5 minutes flat. Which I really should have seen that coming, because he's like, my Leviathan, it's so big. And then the rest of the crew and mercenaries are like, lol, shut up, nerd. And then they meet it seconds
I will
later.
say, I appreciated that the Ulysses, like, is very much an homage to the Nautilus from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So, like,
oh yeah, it was a nice omelet du fromage for that.
Shut up.
Sorry, I had to.
Omelette du fromage. I could be a Frenchman.
I am the mole, le tube.
baguette.
S'il vous plaît, mademoiselle.
Did you get the vibe that, like, the mechanic girl Audrey, like, She was just a cartoonized version of every character that Michelle Rodriguez has ever played in a movie.
Was she voiced by her? Had to have been, right?
Oh, let me see. No. Jacqueline Oberdors.
Well, like, look at her Wikipedia. They got to be cousins, right?
I don't think that's how that works, Jack. Like, just because there are two female tomboy actors doesn't mean that they're related.
I'm just saying, there are a lot of similarities. And
it's not very progressive thinking of you, Jack.
Shut up. Wait, Leonard Nimoy was the king of Atlantis? That makes so much sense.
Did you know it took me 2/3 of this movie to realize that, God, what the fuck was his name? Marty McFly.
Jesus Christ, Doc, you fried Einstein.
Michael J. Fox was the voice of Milo in this.
Yeah, shaky.
I was like,
oh, wow, okay, that was a bad joke.
He has fucking Parkinson's, dude. Lay off him.
He takes all of his drinks shaken, not stirred.
God.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're not.
You're, kinda. But, so maybe I missed something, but how did the general dude get the missing page?
He tore it out of the book before Milo got it.
Wait, Milo got it from the rich guy, right?
Correct. So the way I ascertain it is they found the book on the expedition and fucking God, who was the actor? Commander Lyle. I'm this is just inferred. I don't know if it's actually true. But I'm thinking Commander Lyle killed Milo's grandfather, but presented the book to Rich Pants McGee, but tore out the book or the page prior because, we got to have some leverage somehow. And kind of goes from there. Because it would make sense, because the rich guy's not going to know if something's missing or not. And even if it is, okay, this book's thousands of years old,
But, again, he had no idea what the language was or the significance of that. He just saw a big blue shiny thing and ripped it out on impulse.
Yeah, well.
He didn't even think to go to Milo and was like, duh, what the words say, smart man?
It's like I said, Jack, there's a lot of things in this movie that kind of upset me because they're shoehorned in plot points. Okay? Not all of it's logical.
And, meathead military guy, he's not thinking clearly. Only thing he knows is
showed him, though.
He what?
They sure showed him, though. Turned him into a lava rock and then blew him up.
But yeah, speaking of fuck shit, I guarantee you some Cookie's seen some shit in his life. Also, he's voiced by the same guy that voiced the original Slinky Dog in Toy Story.
Yeah, Jim Varney.
The Pack-A-Day.
He has a war movie that I think we should do in the very near future.
Oh, yeah?
It's called... Do you ever watch the Ernest movies?
Oh, yeah, I just looked that up, that he's Ernest P. Worrell.
Yeah. Ernest in the Army. It came out a year or two after the Gulf War. I think it might be the first Gulf War movie. Let me look it up. No, 98. So this would have came out the same year as Bravo 2-0. But it was an early runner.
Early runner.
Yeah.
It was the Flying Tigers of the Gulf War. Fuck, that's a really weird thing to say.
I think... So, when I watched this movie, there's something else I think we need to address, which is, when I was watching this movie, the first the scene where Kita and Milo go for a swim. Miranda had been watching this movie with me, and she like looks directly over to me, and she's like, "Was this like formative to your sexuality, like when you were young?" I'm like, "Oh, absolutely."
Oh, hell yeah, I'm gay for Milo.
Yeah, those glasses. Mm. But it reminded me of a meme I saw not that long ago. That's like when somebody asked me why I like, you know, thicker girls, and it's like it shows like Kita and one chick from the movie El Dorado and whatnot, and like Miss Incredible and shit.
Chell and Mrs. Incredible, Helen.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, Disney made me the way I am.
Damn you! It's all part of their plot.
See, my grandfather grew up with Popeye. He thought that they were supposed to be sticks.
Olive oil.
I will say though, it seemed a bit ridiculous and way over. Like, whatever animator was in charge of that character had a little too much fun with it.
Man, and you just know Disney knows damn well what they're doing, man.
Anyways,
Yeah, we're moving right along.
I thought that was funny because Miranda just like straight up like called me on it.
Yeah, she knows.
I will say the moment I knew I was straight as a kid, like the first time in my life that I recognized I'm like, oh, I like girls, would be The Mummy starring Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people and a lot of bisexual people say that that movie was their sexual awakening. Well, because look at Brendan Fraser and what's her face.
Oh, Rachel Weisz.
That's it. I'm
Yeah.
not sexist, you're sexist.
Okay. It was a beautiful cast, okay?
Yeah, it was. Oof. And let me be the first to admit it, and this really pains me to admit, but he who confesses and renounces his sins shall find mercy in the eyes of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, amen. But I used to not like Brendan Fraser.
I thought you were going to say you didn't used to like girls, like you used to be gay, but then became not gay.
But then I remembered you totally are. Shut up. But
I was like, did you go to a Pray the Gay Away camp? Because that's not how that works.
for our listeners, John was my older brother in college. He would always call me gay wad and hit me upside the head. I'm gonna get out of this dump of a town. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, I used to not like Brendan Fraser for whatever reason, I don't remember. But I've come around on him, and I appreciate him for what he was, and still is in our hearts. We did not deserve him.
No, it's not
Still
fair
don't.
what Hollywood did to him.
No, it was absolutely monstrous, and you know he was shat upon by life as well. And I haven't seen The Whale yet because I don't know if I have the stomach for it. But I swear I didn't intend that as a pun. But is it good?
Oh, it's amazing.
Might have
It's
to check it
I
out
will
then.
say it's very artsy. It is an A24 film, but I mean symbolism, cinematography, all that stuff really on point. Some of the stuff is a little heavy-handed, but like if you just go into it with the mindset of like this is an artsy film, it is a great film.
Man, Brendan Fraser should have been in this movie as just himself.
Just waiting for Rick O'Connell to save the day.
I mean, his character in The Mummy would fit well with Atlantis.
It definitely would.
And just that colorful band of criminals. So was Miss Packard packing a gun when Milo resurfaced? And were they just patiently waiting for him to get back? Spying on him going on this swimming date with his new lady friend and just got out their guns and patiently waited.
I don't know. Also, can we address the fact that Helga, like, at some point, like, middle of the movie, she just constantly has, like, one spaghetti shoulder strap, like, off to the side of her shoulder? Like, why didn't she ever fix it? Like, she was prim and proper for the first half, and then it's like, I'm rough and tumble and sultry at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not mad about it. It just didn't really make that much sense.
I mean, many hats?
Yeah. So what was your favorite part of this movie?
It's kind of a cop-out, but I just like the adventure itself, like the grand expedition.
Okay. What would you say your least favorite part of this film was?
So, them forgetting how to read and write in Atlantean when they're presumably a good chunk of that population still remembers the day everything went to hell. And, like, yeah, most people in Rome don't speak Latin no more. And they speak an offshoot of it, admittedly, yes. But at the same time, that's due to many other factors.
Yeah, but their language evolved. But their written language also evolved with their spoken language. Like, the only way you're going to lose reading is if you just don't do it.
So did they just not write anything down in the ensuing years?
All of their fucking poets died in a flood.
We banished the literate out to the ocean.
It's a strong lesson to learn in the grand scheme of life. One day there will be no scientists to listen to. It's like kind of like the movie Idiocracy.
And I'm sure there's a trope for that. That part in the movie where they find out that they can speak basically all romantic languages. And it's like, oh, we must share a common No, fuck you. So they can speak...
Common ancestor? Like, oh, language has the rule of Darwinism applied to it?
Like, imagine a Sumerian, like, not even like an original Sumerian, just like an offshoot that went to space and still speaks Sumerian, coming down to us mud-flinging primates, and then talking to us, and then they just code switch into perfect English, and we speak Sumerian. It's like, oh, we have a common ancestor. Like, no, that's not how it fucking works. There's an entire science dedicated to linguistics. He himself is a linguist. And that doesn't necessarily mean he speaks every language. Like, no.
Well, you gotta love that's the other part, too. It was like, somehow Disney still pulled off a white savior thing in this movie, and I was a little upset about that, because it's like, oh, if it wasn't for this plucky little American who liked books, this civilization would have never recovered.
You know, you really want to know what would have been really dark? Like, if this movie took place in 1918 and the mercenaries were jaded, either veterans of the Great War or directly affected by the Great War, like, oh, my dad died, blah, 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 wah, wah. But...
He's never been the same since the mustard gas.
Yeah, and it just showed one of the soldiers without a gas mask on, just coughing, and it just like it shows him in the background coughing. The implication is he brings the fucking Spanish flu to the Atlantean people. Guarantee you they don't have it.
Fucking dark.
I'm not pulling this out of nowhere, by the way. Like, the Disney version of Pocahontas, complete bullshit, by the way. I hate that movie. But
can't wait till we review it.
There's a very, very brief scene where they're all boarding the ship, and in the foreground it shows rats running across the rope onto the ship, implying all the diseases they'll bring.
It's been a hot minute since I watched Pocahontas.
It's a really quick scene, but it's certainly implies implications, doesn't it? Which brings me to the next point. Did they, like, unintentionally doom these people? Like, what if Milo unknowingly brought chlamydia to these people?
You think that nerd got fucking laid before getting to Atlantis?
Okay, point taken. I don't know. Maybe he had fucking whooping cough, or this was before smallpox was eradicated fully, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
For all we know, he could have been a carrier.
Polio's still alive and well at this point.
I don't. Well, they probably would have. Honestly, they probably would have taken him, even if he had polio, right? Just don't use the same baths and pools as us, and wear your mask, and because you're like one of
TB was also still pretty big.
The black lung, and by this point it was known, too, because there were like strikes to demand repayment for whatever, but
oh yeah, Atlantis is fucked. Regardless.
And there's no granted, there's very few survivors of this expedition. You can count them on two hands probably. The old people, Cookie and Miss Packard, aren't long for the world probably. And something tells me those two can keep a secret, sure. But what about
he's not going to live long, not with his diet. I got your 4 basic food groups: beans, bacon, whiskey, and lard.
And he ain't going to live long, you're right. And Lataub, why do I keep saying Lataub? By the way, that's French for the mole. The mole, he's going to die in a gunfight with the police in like fucking Paris or something in a couple years. Explosive dude, whatever. He's gonna go out in a blaze of glory, but he knows the end of the road, but he keeps on walking. But so assume the I don't want to say no. She's Puerto Rican girl. She's like how old? Like 16 in this movie.
Yeah,
Teenager.
I think so.
She's easily a teenager, like at most 19, probably, but. She's presumably going to live the longest because, she's rich. She can buy as many garages as she so damn well pleases. Probably start her own automotive empire, her own oil industry if she's smart. So she's presumably going to live a long time. So she's going to tell people this, right? Like,
oh yeah.
I can't I can't shut up alone, like let alone when I was a teenager. There's no fucking way I'm going to keep this secret. So people are going to know.
Especially if you instantly became a billionaire with your treasure.
Yeah, like people are going to question you, like coming back to your town in Puerto Rico, like, hey, when you left, you were on the verge of bankruptcy and about to close your garage, and now you bought this whole island and my eternal soul and the souls of my family. Well, what's up? Where'd you get the money? Like,
shut up, peasant.
Yeah,
get back to work.
Peasant. And, what's with that weird glowing crystal around your neck? Is that, like, radium or some shit? And, like, so she's gonna tell people, right? Because...
Well, shockingly, this movie had a sequel. I don't think it was nearly as successful.
It was like...
So, some of those questions may be asked. I remember the plot point being, though, like, they went to, like... the Navajo
I remember that part too,
or something.
I watched this a long time ago, and they were like, it was scary Native American magic men, because that's a stock villain. Fuck, that's satisfying. But
So, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking Wild Berry Splash Refresher flavored water. And I'm not being facetious or reductionist about that. It literally is just water with a little bit of citric acid in it for flavoring. No sugar, no caffeine. And also,
some
perfect.
citric acid.
Tastes really good. No sugar. Like 50 milligrams of sodium. Tastes really good, though.
Well, I got my extra large Polar Pop from Circle K. Put Sprite in it. And then topped it off with a little bit of go-go juice.
I got off track. So she's going to tell people, we know this. And even before the internet and standardized radio, word kind of spread, right? Well, as best it
depends.
Could. And I can see this getting watered down to like an urban legend, like, oh, some mechanic in Puerto Rico got a lot of money because she went on this expedition to mother flippin' Atlantis. And, you know, the average Joe Schmo is going to be like, y'all, lol, what the fuck ever. But imagine it plays the grand game of pre-telephone telephone and it crosses the Atlantic to a certain angry mustache man that recently came to power. And, you know...
Well, that's why we have ancient aliens today, is because Hitler knew the truth about Atlantis.
Right, and what if he, like... See, that could have been a bomb-ass sequel. Like, 20 years later, the Nazis are looking for Atlantis or another route to Atlantis. And
Donald Duck is recruiting a crew to stop him. Every time I think about cartoons in World War II, I just think about that one fucked up cartoon with Donald Duck where he's...
So, I'll get to that later, but there's also a convenient path directly to Atlantis now, because presumably it's still in relative walking distance to the place, because they like drive there in like what, 20 minutes, go to that hollowed out volcano, blast it open to God knows where. Also, I really wish it showed them popping up in just some random location. So there's a path directly to Atlantis, right? And
yeah,
granted, they have fancy new toys that they can defend the place with, but that's not enough for the Third Reich to stop them. No, God, no. And this is German engineering we're talking about.
Well, that's kind of where you start going into the like Captain America side of like World War II versus like Hydra and shit.
And where does that volcano exit to? Is what I want to know.
Just like straight up, I think, like, well, to some random ass island.
Man. And speaking of their technology, this is a minor gripe about logic I had. So it's like everyone has those little crystal doodads. Stick it in the crystal slot, turn it slightly, turn it back, press hand
stick
on
it in your crystal slot.
Giggity. And she's tried everything until put your hand on it, right?
It was put your hand on it, turn it, and then do like a quarter turn backwards. So essentially like trying to like rev your engine or some shit.
Right. But if I were to drop a Camaro in like a military base in ancient Rome, and they'd be like, what the fuck? But, you know, they'd probably tinker around for it, and if they didn't outright destroy it out of boredom, they'd probably figure out that key, like, press key in, turn it, starts the weird machine. I mean, yeah, eventually, right?
That's fair.
Maybe not
She should have figured it out.
Maybe not the average shit kicker soldier.
I get what you're saying. She should have figured it out before Milo. But that goes back to our linguist needs to be the savior of these people. But I think it's about that time we rate this thing. I had something in mind for the rating. So near the beginning of the film, when Milo's talking to Rich Pants McGee, he's like sitting in front of a fish tank with a bunch of what?
Coelacanths.
Yeah, coelacanths. I'm glad you know how to fucking say it. So I saw a Reddit post about it.
I was gonna bring that same post up.
So essentially at the time, so this is set in 1914. Well, the coelacanth wasn't discovered until like the 30s, and it's described as a living fossil. This is a fish that literally it's been around for hundreds of millions of years. I think it's kind of a apt rating, so I personally think we should do 1 to 5 coelacanths.
And also, it's yeah. I read up a bit on it. It was discovered in 1938 in South Africa after some guy that was in the know just spotted it at his fish market one day. And he's like, no, there's no way, right? Because they've been dead for millions of years, right? And then a millionaire just has it in his house, doesn't even bring it up.
As is the way of the world.
I wonder what modern day billionaires are hiding from us. I know one of those motherfuckers is a dinosaur.
I think we all know what modern day billionaires are hiding from us, and no, I'm
They're
not interested.
vampires.
Anyways, Jack, 1 to 5 coelacanths.
4 coelacanths.
All right.
Also, I want to eat a coelacanth.
I also want to eat a coelacanth now. I thought this is a good movie. I thought it held up over time. Like I said, it feels a bit rushed in places. And there's a little bit of like, fuck you, that's why kind of mentality as far as driving the plot. I'll give this 3.5 coelacanths.
Well, hard ass.
I know. What does Rotten Tomatoes give this?
Right. I always forget that's my job. It's my one purpose for existing, and I failed you. Let's see. Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes, the site we all know. That I certainly had this pulled up, and I'm certainly not just typing it in as we speak, clicking the link. Anyway. Ah, damn it, I can't whistle. There we go. Okay, so people are much less forgiving about this. 49% on the tomometer and 55% on the audience rating.
Oh, go fuck yourself, Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck both of these. I disagree with both of this. This is an underrated movie. Fuck all of you. I like it. It's whimsical and adventuring.
It is. It is whimsical. It's adventurous. There's a lot of small little things for you to pick up on. Like, it's a fun movie. Is it a stellar movie? I don't think so. But it's an enjoyable, good movie. But, so for next week, we have a guest. I'll keep that under wraps for now, but the movie will be War of the Planets of the Apes, because why not hit up the middle of a fucking series? It's the one that has war in it, okay, guys? Give me a break.
Okay, yeah, this is where I gotta disagree with you. Like, yeah, I get that war's in the title, but god damn it, I want to do the trilogy. It's a great movie.
Well, we're starting with War of the Planet of the Apes, okay? I didn't hear any bitching from you when we did Star Trek 6, okay?
Well, you don't need to watch the other ones. They don't complement each other like these ones do. It's a great modern sci-fi. Well, okay, it's a quadrilogy now, but...
Okay, well, we'll just be reviewing them out of order. That's it.
No, fuck you. Like, I want to do
Fuck
these in
you.
chronological order. God damn it. Like, it's like, when framed from the beginning, it's great. Like...
Yes, I thought the first one was great. Well, I'm excited to see where the story goes.
Well, did you watch the second one?
I thought this was the second one.
No, it's like the third one.
Oh, okay, well.
Yeah, it's
how
like...
much could happen between the first and the third one?
Rise of, Dawn of, War 4.
I'm sorry that... I can't... They changed one fucking word in the title, Jack. I'm sorry, I can't keep track of it. Is this the one with Woody Harrelson in it?
Yes.
Okay, then that's all I need to know.
But anyway, like, what if we all just combine this into one big fucking movie review?
Okay, well, no.
Oh, come on. It'll be one giant love letter to our fans.
Jack, we can definitely knock out the other Planet of the Apes films in a expeditious manner, okay?
Fine, I
And
don't
if you
like
remember
it.
if you remember from our criminal justice class, expeditious means quick.
Was that the word that Roach pounded into us whenever one of us was late?
Yes.
Bro. So, I don't remember if we've talked about him before, dear listeners, but Papa Roach, our professor of criminal justice at the University of South Dakota, go Yotes, he had this thing. If you were late, he would stop what he was doing entirely, cross his hands behind his back, stare at you while you sat down, and say, "Nice of you to join us, your name." He would call you out by name.
Oh yeah, there was not a single person in his room he didn't know by name.
It
could be like it could be 150-person class, and he would know.
I have no idea how he did it. And
dude, the only thing worse than that is if he called on, like, you had assigned readings, and if he called on you, be like, "What do you think about this?" And you'd be like, I didn't read," and he would just pause for a moment and then like kind of do like a half shake of his head and then like go to the person who's sitting behind you, and you're like, "Oh, I failed him. I'm a failure. I can never redeem myself."
Wasn't there one time in your class, I remember you telling me about this, where he started at the front row and got almost all the way to the back before somebody had read it?
Yeah, that was a bad day.
I bet he was pissed. But where was I going? Oh yeah, and there was like this perpetually tired black guy in my class who would always be late. And his name was Sydney, and he would always call Sydney out at least once a week. And mostly Sydney would just grumble about it but take it. I think once he actually stood up for himself, but that didn't last long. And
there is no.
Actually, I think he was the guy that was like, "Not a single one of you would last in prison," and I was too scared to ask him if he knew that from experience or what. But and keep in mind, this is the same class where we shared like stories of people that we personally knew that went to prison, what they did, how long their sentence was if we knew it, and if we agreed with their sentence, blah blah blah. Did you guys do that?
I don't remember having a conversation like that.
This was like the first week of classes.
But I could definitely see that being something he would discuss.
Yeah, and I vividly remember this. He was like going around. He asked me, and I told him about my shithead friend Devin that went to prison for sleeping with a girl much younger than him. But there was this one girl in the front row that he called, and just nonchalantly she was like, "Oh yeah, the guy who raped me got this many years."
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Okay then.
We went from 0 to 100 on that one.
Yeah, it was, man, class was quiet after that. But man, what a great movie this was.
Yeah. I can't wait to review War of the Planet of the Apes next week.
Monkey movie.
Monkeys.
Wait, are we doing this Monday? Monkey movie Monday. Monkey movie Monday. Monkey movie Monday. We need to review a monkey-themed war movie every Monday. I don't think there's that.
How many of them are there?
Probably not many. Wait.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add?
Feel like I had some. Oh yeah, the fourth movie in the new War for the new Planet of the Apes series is I would argue, a war movie. And no, that's not me reaching for straws. Like, even you would agree it's a war movie. I can't give away too much of the plot, but that is a plot point.
Okay, well, you can suggest it for our next Monkey Movie
Monday!
Monkey Movie Monday!
But I would counter, since we're doing half the series, we need to do the other half, because they're inextricably linked. Also, do you like my dictionary today? I'm just pulling this out of nowhere.
I don't know, dude.
Well, the two might... Well, you could argue that the first one's a war movie by virtue that it's a revolution movie, and, you know, this is basically their war for independence, kind of, maybe.
How about this? We'll do war, and then we'll do the fourth one, and then we can do like a double feature episode with the first two.
Don't like the chronology, but fine.
Okay, well, even Star Wars was out of order, okay? Get the fuck over it.
Yeah, it was really unorganized on George's part.
Anyways, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. The stars do matter. If you want additional content from us, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Discord under Armchair Commanders. Until next time, I've been John.
And I'm Jack.
And we will catch you later.
I'm not saying it.
Can you say Monkey Movie Monday again?
Monkey Movie Monday!